So let's just go over this real quick. Make sure I'm recording. Yeah, okay. So these two are pretty straightforward. These two are pretty simple. This is how I teach it in class. So hopefully it helps out. If you look at this right here, okay, we're going to do a little math and hopefully it makes sense. Okay, so we're going to call the green dots salt and the blue dots water. Okay, so I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 salt molecules on the outside of the cell and 3 on the inside. So if you look at it, to make things even, what would have to happen is one of these salt molecules would actually move into the cell, and what you would actually have is now 4 on the outside and 4 on the inside, and everything would be even. Okay, so that is diffusion because it's salt. Okay, if we come down here, now we're talking about water. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 water molecules on the outside, 1, 2, 3 on the inside. To make that even, we would take 1 and move it in, and what we would end up with is 4 on the outside, okay, and then 4 on the inside, and there we go. And you might be thinking, well, this is exactly the same as that. Well, you'd be right, with one exception. We're working with water here. And if it's water, it's called osmosis, but the process is exactly the same. Okay? So that's that. That's not too bad. Diffusion is any substance. It could be air freshener. It could be food coloring in a glass of water. It can be anything. Tea, coffee. Osmosis is strictly water. Okay? Now, this is the tricky part. This is the part of the video where you're either going to have like a shrinking cell or an expanding cell. Sometimes there were parts of the video where it said it popped, right? So I'm going to go over this the way I would in class, and I hope it makes sense. Okay, so if you have a question, please email me and I will we'll figure something out. Okay, but here we go. We're only focusing on the water and its relationship to the salt. We're really looking at the water when we're talking about these salt cells and saltwater problems. I didn't bother doing one where it's, you know, equal amounts of salt and water inside and outside the cell, because then it's even and it's not going to do anything. Okay, but if there's higher salt outside the cell, so we have a bunch of green dots outside the cell, we have 3 outside water, 5 on the inside water. Okay, this is how you should really think about it. The salt on the outside of the cell is taking up space that would otherwise be able to be taken up by water. So the concentration or the amount of salt on the outside of the cell is higher than inside, and the concentration of water on the inside is higher than outside. And we're only focusing on the water. So what's going to happen is the water is going to try to dilute, or it's going to try to make things even, right? Diffusion, osmosis, it's going to try to make things even. And to do that, it's going to take one of these water molecules and it's going to bring it out. But by doing that, just like a water balloon shrinks when you let water out of it, the cell is also you're going to end up with, in this situation, is a shrivelly cell, right? Where you have, now remember, we're not concentrating on the salt. Okay, the salt stays the same. 2, 3, 4, 5. What we're really concentrating on is 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. We're concentrating on the water. Water came out in this situation, which made the cell shrink. This is why when you eat salty foods and there's salt in your blood from you eating the salt, the salty food, you end up getting thirsty because water is literally coming out of your cells because of the salty, bloody environment that the cells are in, right? So when your cells shrink and they're losing water, they send a signal to your brain saying, we need some more water. And that's why you get thirsty when you eat salty foods. Okay? It's the opposite if there's an increased amount of salt on the inside of the cell. In this case, again, we're focusing on the water, right? The water or the salt on the inside of the cell is taking up space that would otherwise be able to be taken up by the water. So we're going to take one of these water molecules and we're going to bring it onto the inside. And what we're going to get is a larger, expanded, bloated cell, because what's happened is, in order to be equal, water has moved into the cell. It's like adding more water to a water balloon. It's going to, get bigger, duh, right? So water goes into the cell. So higher salt outside, it shrinks. Higher salt inside, it expands. And that's how it works. Okay? When they're talking about the salt environment, when dropping the cell inside the salt environment, this is what they're talking about. Okay? It's water trying to equalize itself. And really what you're looking at in this situation, you're only looking at the water, so you're actually looking at, they're getting you to focus on osmosis. Okay? If you notice, I didn't move the salt around at all. Okay? That would be diffusion. We're focusing on the water in this situation and what the water is doing. That's it. Okay, increased salt outside, right? You get thirsty, right? Water's coming out, your cells shrink. Higher salt on the inside, right? Water goes in to become equal, and the cell ends up being bigger. Okay. I hope that helped. Okay. If you have any questions about that, please let me know. Okay. Take care, everybody.